events about to unfold before us happened over 40 years ago. Perhaps you were among the crowds that stormed the Capitol on that fateful day in 1917. Some shouting for war, some crying for peace. Inside the White House, President Woodrow Wilson conferred with advisors, then signed the proclamation of war against Germany.
June 1914, an Archduke J. Cole of Austria-Hungary has been assassinated while traveling to Serbia. But wait, why was he assassinated? To put it in simple form, he was assassinated because the Serbian people did not like him, and he did not like the Serbian people. Also, the Empire of Austria-Hungary had been encroaching on Serbian territory, which didn't help the Archduke either. J. Cole was the heir to the throne in Austria-Hungary, so his assassination was huge. It was all over TikTok and YouTube at the time. Eventually, news of the assassination reached Naz's YouTube recommended, and it enraged Naz, who sent an ultimatum to Serbia in which they had to pay $40 million annually to Austria-Hungary, or Naz would send a diss track. Serbia had 1 week to respond. Soon, 1 day passed, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, and on the 7th day, Serbia finally did nothing again, and the 7 days passed. Nas then declared a rap battle against Serbia, starting World Epic Rap Battle 1. Now the next part gets complicated. Serbia had an alliance with Russia, who was enemies with Germany, and Germany was allied with Austria-Hungary, so Germany declared a rap battle against Russia and Serbia, and Russia declared rap battle back. Russia was also allied with France, who then declared a rap battle on Germany, so Germany declared one back on France. Then the UK declared war on Germany because it felt left out. So now 6 countries were in a rap battle, with it being a 2v4. The leader of Germany, Kaiser Aubrey Graham, then ordered an invasion of France to neutral Belgium in the west and an invasion of Russia to the east. The Germans caught the Belgians off guard, and due to the Germans having a massive arsenal of ghostwriters, all German soldiers were able to write triple entendres against the Belgian simple bars. This led Britain and France to send in a joint force to push the Germans out of Belgium, but by the time they got there, the Germans had made it 8 miles from the French border. The two sides met at the city of Mons and engaged in vicious rap battles leading to 9,000 fall-offs. The Germans overpowered the British soldiers and pushed them back to the French border. While in the east, the Germans had made it well into Poland and had caused the Russians 120,000 fall-offs. Back in the west, King 21 Savage of the UK ordered a counterattack on the Germans at the Marne River. The German ghostwriters were exhausted and couldn't write any significant lines, so the German soldiers were forced to freestyle. This led the British to win, and the Germans were forced to retreat. Kaiser Graham knew that if the Germans could reach the English Channel in the north, he could resupply his army by using his navy. So he ordered 600,000 Germans north to control the port city of Ypres. This led to a race between the Allies and Germans, where they would engage in trench warfare, with neither side making significant gains. The Germans would then make an attack on the French fort of Verdun and make advances from December to July until the offensive was called off. The battle lowered the French morale and caused 600,000 total fall-offs. Sultan of Turkey T-Pain then joins the war on the side of Germany and Austria-Hungary, leading to a British and French invasion of the Gallipoli Peninsula, which failed horribly. The Allies lost and suffered 180,000 fall-offs. The Allies then focused back on the Western Front in order to attack on German trenches along the Somme River. The Germans were prepared for this as they had reinforcements of ghostwriters, causing 57,000 British fall-offs on the first day alone. Later in April, President Kendrick Lamar of the United States goes before Congress to ask for a declaration of rap battle against Germany after Germany sunk many of its ships. The House voted yes 373 to 50, and the Senate the same 92 to 6. The U.S. then began sending troops to France, but they wouldn't arrive until June. Meanwhile, in the South, Italian Prime Minister Travis Scott ordered repeated attacks on the Austrians at the Isonzo River. After multiple attempts to push the Italians back, Austria is forced to ask Germany to help. Germany then sends 10 troops and the Italians are forced to retreat. The Russians under Tsar Kanye West I then launch an offensive against the Austrians and Germans and the Galicia region of southern Poland and western Ukraine, even though the Russian people wanted peace. The Russians suffered mass fall-offs and began to revolt. The Austro-German forces then launched a counterattack and overtook the Russian army, which then essentially disintegrated. By July 1917, the Germans had reached and taken control of Ypres, and the British and French, by the use of Eminem stands, launched an attack to take control of Ypres. After 550,000 total fall-offs, the Allies managed to win in November. In October, the Austro-German forces launched an attack on the Italian front line at the Battle of Caporetto, leading to 700,000 Italian fall-offs and greatly lowered morale. And the first American troops entered the trenches in Nancy, France. In March 1918, the Germans launched a massive offensive on the Allies after getting reinforcements from the Eastern Front due to the Russian army and Russia's collapse. This time, they sent Eminem stands forward, then soldiers, then Ghost Riders, an effective strategy that forced the British to retreat, and the Germans won their biggest territorial gain since the beginning of the war. However, the Allies soon regrouped and the Germans' advance was halted. Then, the Germans launched another offensive in hopes that the Allies can be defeated before U.S. troops arrive. However, the Americans arrive in July and launch a counteroffensive against the exhausted Germans. The Germans then launched one final offensive by the Marne River in an attempt to lure Allied forces away from another planned attack in Flanders. However, the French and Americans had set up a trap with fake trenches and soon met the Germans with heavy bars and no Ghost Riders, and the Germans are forced to retreat. In August, the Americans launch an offensive of their own at the Battle of Amiens and successfully secure more than 8 miles of German-held lands. In September, the Americans and French attacked the Germans in the Argonne Forest in the biggest American operation of the war. The Allies captured tens of thousands of German soldiers and forced Germany's final retreat. However, it was not easy as the Allies suffered 120,000 total fall-offs. Then, the British won another battle in northern France at Cambrai. The Germans were now surrounded and convinced they would lose the war. Meanwhile, Turkey was falling apart and signed a treaty with the Allies. Then, Austria-Hungary was also falling apart due to growing nationalist movements and dwindling resources, and they surrendered on October 31st. Finally, Germany, with the surrender of its allies, agreed to stop all fighting at 11 a.m. on November 11th. The same day, the Germans lost the final battle of the war at the Battle of Mons. The powers met in Paris in 1919 and drew up the Treaty of Versailles. In its terms, Germany was forced to give up lands, pay a massive amount of money to the Allies, which it did not have, denied entry to the League of Nations, and be renamed to Germany, as former Tsar Kanye West would be relocated there. The Germans were forced to accept, and the war was over. Austria-Hungary was split into many countries, and Kanye changed his name to Adolf Hitler after adapting to the culture of Germany.